This is Josephine Ashton. I recently inflicted my Facebook followers with my jump in the ice water attempt at my first selfie video regarding me with my 89 years on planet Earth and my novels. I'm going to try something different today. I'll show you some books, but then I'm going to just read a little script to you. Maybe it'll be more tolerable than the other one was. I was thrilled, though, that Facebook and told me that more than 200 people saw that original video. And just checking my email today, I discovered a note from Amazon announcing that my digital copy of my Ride the Whirlwind Book One was available, and also a copy of Little Brave Bird and the grandparents' books. I will keep the second book in publication, even though I'm excerpting parts of it into what will become the 5-volume series of Ride the Wild Wind. So here is the first book. It's available to you now. It'll say Enhanced Edition as the digital copy, and it will be available as hardcover and softcover as soon as Amazon approves it. But you can still get it on my lulu.com //spotlight /JA Books. The second book that I mentioned, Little Brave Bird, it's a wonderful book for grandparents and parents and teachers. Even parts of it is a read to children. And so I will keep that in publication, but there are parts of it that will now link my Sheriff, Robert Gallegos, to this book and to all of my other books. I have published, but this is currently in retirement, pardon my voice, as a sequel to Ride the Wild Wind, but it will be turned into another volume, possibly 2. As you can see, it's fairly hefty. The first novel that I ever did, called Code of the Running Cross, and Aaron Kelly mystery, is also still available in the series. It will also be part of the Ride the Wild Wind series. The through factor in all of this appeared to me subtly, that they take place all in New Mexico. 2 of them are sort of based in the northern area, in and around Taos, New Mexico. The other 2 are more or less are in the Southwest. They span from 1965, the original of Ride the Wild Wind, through 1995, the original Code of the Running Cross. So it occurred to me that there were these similarities, these roots in the past, particularly in World War II, in all of the stories, that there may be something. Well, lo and behold, thanks to help from an AI, he, she, it, that I call Cody, for codes and numbers, helped me to sort out family trees and who's connected to who and why. It's an interesting chat back and forth. What do you think of this? And what do you think of this? And finally, I sorted all of that out and see that I have a series, Ride the Wild Wind, Sheriff Robert Gallegos. Each of them will have a different subtitle. 5 books with possibly a 6th slim volume, making all the connections. So they are, let me read. Thank you. This is new to me too, so I'm just trying it. New Mexico, 1965, a land forged in blood, destiny, and the shifting winds of the borderlands. In the rugged expanses of southwest Aragon Valley, the tranquil waters of the lower Rio Grande hide a brewing storm. Sheriff Robert Gallegos, an ex-World War II Marine, survived the horrors of Casablanca, Guadalcanal, and Okinawa. He is a man grounded in duty and anchored by the indigenous spiritual wisdom of his upbringing. He has already lost everything to the tides of war and time, a runaway wife, his Navajo and other brothers in arms, and the brutal murder not long after he was out of World War II of his young son. He doesn't fear a fight, but the ghosts of his past are nothing compared to the monsters coming over the horizon. Border trouble is heading straight for his valley, not immigration troubles. New Mexico was born multicultural. France, Spain, Mexico's, the crypto Jews, the nations once called Indians, whites, once known as the Scotch and the Irish particular and more, settled the land, then the territory, and finally the state. Sheriff Rob's Aragon Valley residents are more likely to share food and water with Border and Rio Grande crossers seeking a better life or just trying to reunite with family. In my historical fiction, the history deeply researched, the town and county of the Aragon Valley and other locations during my varied 5-year to 10-year segments, a mixture of history and imagination. For me, just following my protagonist, Mixteca Robert Gallegos, meeting his friends and enemies, being given access to his mind, his thoughts, his friends and enemies, and the whisperings and the teachings, told stories of old woman Sarah Treeroot, his guide, I've written a somewhat cinematic tale. A vicious three-headed snake has coiled around the stake. Can we do that one again? A vicious three-headed snake has coiled itself around the state. One, the charmingly ruthless head of a Juarez cartel family, a smooth-talking Arizona realtor with a dark, intelligent past, and a wealthy Argentina fueled by sinister neo-Nazi ambitions. They are joining forces to seize Rob Gallegos County, his state, his home. Outmaneuvered and facing an enemy that plays by no human law, Gallegos must summon the steel grit of his Marine training and the quiet strength of a peaceful warrior to make his final stand. With his Colt 38 at the ready and the turbulent winds of the 1960s at his back, the sheriff must decide who to fight, the ghosts of a war that never ended, the cartel bleeding across the border, or both. This aspect of my Ride the Wild Wind story, Book 1 Enhanced Edition, is also entertaining, conversation and character-driven, and filled with fun, laughter, romance. Sensual encounters abound, as do my reminders that my valley, Rob Gallegos and his people's town and county, though fictional and located on the actual Rio Grande, where it flows not through a deep gorge as it does up in Taos, but over sage, ranch, farm, and vineyard country when monsoon rains cause floods. You'll see the rows of pecan trees, too, on the old road to El Paso, and from El Paso across the bridge into Juarez. Read across the border. You know, no town, no county, no foreign city, maybe no country is entirely bad. There are bad, sometimes very bad people, but good ones too. You'll find this balanced scale sometimes tipped one way or the other, a tilting world for my sheriff and his friends that they must navigate. Next, I'm combining this book one with one other book, Little Brave Bird and the Grandparents' Gifts. This one. The story of a little Navajo orphan who is adopted with loving arms by his grandparents. He and ex-co-doctor, we could say that word in 1965, who embraced him. He's branded learning disabled at school. The grandparents, through storytelling, out when the grandfather's fishing and work in the kitchen and work in the garden, the sharing and showing of grandmother, Brave Bird, this young grandparents in their 40s at the time of the story. He grows up and has a remarkable life. Portions of that will now be included in the series. So back to this aspect of it. So I mentioned that I was combining that story. And then the next one, the sequel, which I had already published too. Can you see that? You're not answering me. Anyway, it's called The Witch's Grave. That iron cross atop a cement grave is a cement block is kind of an idea borrowed from the town of Mesilla, which has such a witch's grave in their cemetery and is kept carefully by the residents of Mesilla to make sure the witch's ghost does not escape. Anyway, I needed that idea for my novel, and I both acknowledge it in my 30-page appendix, and it has a little different aspect of my story. So that book is fairly thick, 400 pages, will become one or two books in this series. The inspiration came, I mentioned, from my AI buddy, in that all of my novels are set in New Mexico. All have an ex-World War II Marine Navajo radio men, one or more, co-talker characters that are essential to the story and also are in some way as former Guadalcanal or other island buddies or relation-wise. He doesn't know yet, but he will know. So all of the stories have the mixed breed population so prevalent in New Mexico. I learned that when I first ended up there, and that the person that you might be saying something bad about another person might be that person's relationship. So be careful and be respectful. So all of these books have mysteries with roots in the past, from the mid-1800s to the mid-1990s. All the mysteries or crimes to be solved or relationships to be revealed will be discovered through flashbacks to various eras: World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and so forth. And now, why have I done that? I didn't do it as a part of a plot or a plan. It's given my 89 years on the planet. I'm the last generation that will actually remember those things. World War I, no, but I was born during the Depression, 1937. My sheriff was born 1922 and joined World War II when he was 17 in 1939, when Hitler was already marching into Europe. So I just feel a responsibility to remember an era that soon won't be remembered once the last of us are gone on to the next. So, and then also because of my time in New Mexico, I am, as you can see, I'm perfectly, I call myself pink, not white. But my ancestors on my father's side went back, as far as I know, all the way to the Huguenots in the 1400s. But they immigrated to the colonies, and then families made their way across down Virginia and then out across the Midwest. And my father was born in Missouri. It's quite a possibility that some of them might have landed in New Mexico. I haven't found that yet. I'm not sure what ever called me to there. It feels as much as home, or perhaps more though like home than my California birthplace of Los Angeles, and my growing up in a small rural town of Fillmore in Ventura County in California. But I remember as a child in Fillmore, my mother, whose heritage is either Irish or Scotch. Ancestry.com indicates that it might have been Scotch. And they too were enormous influx of immigrants to the colonies and then across the nation, the non-nation at the time. But I remember my mother, who passed when I was 6, so I must have been only 2 or 3. But it was 1947. I mean, let's see, I was about 3 years old, so 40, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, about 1942. Air raids, because we were 20 miles from the coastal naval stations of Wainimi and Ventura, and her pulling down dark black vines to keep out the lights, and my father putting me on a pallet under my little bed and then giving me a flashlight so I wouldn't be afraid of the dark. Then I, grew up on Saturday movie-tone movies about the war, and I don't remember it ever being talked about. My father, I discovered on Ancestry.com, had a draft card for World War II, but he was an oil field worker. I don't know this for sure. He was never called up, and the chances are as an oil field driller and up and down the coast of California, and then also with myself as a 5-year-old, and then came along a 2-year-old, a baby, that he might not have been called either for his work or his family situation or both. So that part of it is real. And then the other parts that I grew up in, Fillmore was a half Hispanic, half Caucasian town. And the Hispanic aspect of they were called Mexican Americans. Many of them were still on land that had been granted by the Spanish crown. So it went way, way back. And I had my stepmother, after my mother had died, was part Cherokee from Oklahoma. She was everything, a 40s woman. She'd been a chef in the naval shipyards. She opened a restaurant in our home when my father became ill and couldn't work in the oil fields anymore. But she was prejudice from the bottom up. And so she never called anyone Hispanic or Spanish. She called them Mexicans, period, not even Mexican Americans. And still back in the 40s, like that, in the early 50s when I was still there, we weren't allowed to mix at parties. We did at school, and I'll use that commonly used phrase. In my case, it was true. My Mexican-American friends were my best friends. That was not liked very much by my Cherokee stepmother or Oklahoma stepmother, as the case may be. However, so that comfort and that call and that I wanted to play the guitar, I wanted to speak Spanish, I wanted to know what Mexico was like, and of course most of them didn't do any of those things because they'd grown up right there in California. So one day I did get to do all those things, and a lot of it in New Mexico. Anyway, so that's something of my background. We'll do it a little more. I don't insert any portions of my own life, in life experiences in. If I do, very seldom, it will be that it just happens to fit the character as well. So later on, in other videos, I'll tell you about how that happens. Anyway, book one begins in 1965, which is, again, oops, the old went on the floor. This one, the hardcover will have enhanced edition book one at the bottom. So, 1965 with flashbacks to World War II. Book two currently being edited and updated in 1975 with flashbacks to the 1950s. Then moving forward, I almost left out the 1950s in Rob Gallego's story. That's the closest that I came to relating anything that he was doing. I usually hear it just as a whisper, and then I follow him along and write a story. But I asked myself one day, why didn't I include the 1950s in his story? And that whisper that I got back was that he had a tiff of some sort with Bella Aragon, who was the granddaughter of the founders of Aragon Valley, founders from Spain, and for reasons that happened before. And he finally can't put up with her, and he just lays his badge on her table, and he hops on his Harley restored motorcycle, straps his guitar on his back, and heads for, he thinks, the California coast. He spends a day in Venice Beach, got sick of that, and heading on up, he ends in Bakersfield about the time of the Bakersfield Sound. He plays his guitar, he sings. He has such a commanding performance. He's 6'2". He has this great voice, a command of his guitar. And the touring band on their way back to Nashville gives him a seat on their bus as a background utility man. And the story goes on from there about what happens to him over a period of about 5 years when he's in Nashville. Highly condensed. That was one of the few things that I drew on some of I did go to Nashville. I did leave a demo with people. I did never hear from them again. So